I get this claim a lot that some people will say, well, the Catholic Church gave you the Bible, so you should become Catholic. And yes, there was a series of councils where the scriptures were discussed and the books of the canon were discussed, but it's a huge misnomer. It's a huge misrepresentation of facts to say that the Catholic Church is the one that decided which books were scripture and which ones weren't. You see, in Peter's day, Peter says it himself, Paul's writings were already considered scripture, right? So the Catholic Church comes along and they say, well, this book, yeah, okay, fine scripture. This book, fine scripture. That one, no. It was not them being authoritative and saying, we like this one, we don't like this one. No, that's not what it was at all. It was them recognizing what was already generally accepted by Christians to be scripture. This is why the book of John was accepted in canon, because people believed it to be scripture. The church accepted the fact centuries before. It's also why they rejected books like the book of Thomas, the book of Tobit, and others, because the church had already decided, no, that's not scripture. We hear the voice of the shepherd in these books over here, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Genesis, Exodus, so on and so forth. We don't hear it in these, what we now call the apocryphal books, the pseudepigraphal books. And the apocryphal wasn't added until the 1500s. It wasn't added to the Catholic scriptures until centuries later. And Protestants don't accept the Apocrypha and the Pseudepigrapha, generally speaking, as being part of their scriptures because, again, the Bible, the 66 books of the Bible, conflict with the Pseudepigrapha and the Apocrypha. Because, again, the Apocrypha and the Pseudepigrapha contradict the actual Bible. So, no, the Catholics didn't give us the Bible. They're not the ones who decided this, okay, that, not okay. Now, we couple that with the great Protestant principle that we find in Isaiah chapter 28, which says to compare Scripture with Scripture. And then the Protestant principle of Isaiah 8, verse 20, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, there is no light in them. Paul extends that same sentiment in 1 Corinthians 14:32 and says the prophets are subject to the prophets. In other words, if somebody else comes along claiming to be a prophet or claiming to have written Scripture, Book of Thomas, what have you, and it contradicts the 66 books of the Bible, it's not scripture. They're a false prophet. The Bible, not Catholic.